Hello, my name is Reese, and welcome to the next installment of the Project Ellie Devlog series. In this video I'm going over my character creation process and the progress made on the character so far during my last 2-week sprint. I will be showing you how I went from making a low poly block out, then moving on to sculpting, then finally moving on to retopology. So, it's finally time to bring all that character design work together and make the character for my game. You may have noticed that my character falls into a sort of anime style. This is an art style that I personally find quite appealing. I think it's important for the protagonist of the game to look visually appealing, as this can help make players more engaged with the video game. I also think that a game can be more enjoyable if you get to play as a character that you like. One of the criteria for my game is that I wanted to use a cell shader for my character, and this is an art style that commonly, if not always, uses a cell shader in video games. You may have seen in the previous devlog that I already made a character. This was just a model that I made quickly so that I could start testing game mechanics. This model did not look good enough for what I want for my game. I started off by modelling a new low poly base mesh. The idea was to create the basic shape that I wanted before transferring over to a sculpting software. I knew that the main issue was going to be the face, so I put extra attention into making sure that this part of the model looked right. When making this model, I left out the hands and shoes because I knew it would be easier for me to sculpt them later. Rather than spending the time and effort to get it right at this stage, I would save time by not modelling these at this stage. When my new base model was finished, it was time to take it into a sculpting software. I decided I was going to use the sculpting tools in Blender. Before this I had never used Blender, so it took some time to get used to. Once I started to understand the interface, Blender was actually really nice to use, and there are lots of tutorials online to help you if you get a bit stuck. I thought that the sculpting brushes available were perfect for what I was doing as well. Compared to ZBrush, Blender doesn't have many brushes, but I never found myself needing a brush that Blender didn't have, so Blender was perfectly suitable for the task. I don't sculpt very often, so it was challenging to make sure that what I was sculpting looked right. I made sure to always have reference up on my other screen to help make sure my character was anatomically correct. My character may be stylized, but it's important to still follow basic human anatomy where you can. When my sculpt was finished, I brought the model back into 3ds Max to retopologize it. My main reason for this is that I'm more comfortable with 3ds Max and the tools that I would use for retopology. Before I started retopology, I made sure to optimize the sculpt by using the Pro Optimize modifier. This would lower the poly count of the sculpt and put less stress on 3ds Max, but keep the detail of the model. To retopologize my character, I used the freeform modeling tools and used Draw on Surface. This allowed me to quickly make new polygons, and the vertices would always be a set distance from the sculpt, making retopology easy. While I did manage to finish retopology in my 2-week sprint, I want to go back and revisit parts of the model to improve them. For example, I'm going to redo the hair to make it look better. Currently I think it looks a bit flat and in general doesn't look as good as I pictured it before starting. I also want to make improvements to the eyes, as I'm not particularly happy with how they look. So, the start of my next sprint, I will be working on these amendments to the character model. When I am finished, I will most likely move on to unwrapping and texturing, and then I'll get her in Engine so I can start learning about cell shading. I'm also going to have to do every animation for this character by hand. I uploaded this version of the character to Mixamo, and all of the animations caused the gloves to deform in a weird way, so it looks like I'm going to be spending a fair amount of time rigging and animating in the future. This devlog wasn't as long as it could have been, but I don't think there's much to talk about when it comes to character modelling, as it's a fairly long and repetitive task. If you found this devlog interesting and want to follow the development of Project Ellie, then do sub to the channel so you don't miss future devlogs. Thanks for watching, see you next time.